At Sound Candid Talk, we help your event, trainings, shows, and so more to the world through internet broadcasting in UHD. We provide from one to several camera setups and integrate graphics to live in your live streams. For more information, contact us through +2547 18454585 or email at soundcandidtalk@gmail.com. Reach on us today. Sound Candid Talk Live News.
Let's appreciate them. We have invited all the sub-county directors at the headquarters, so on. So senior officials from the TSC, you are also appreciated. Let's appreciate the TSC team. Stand there. The Director, Kenya National Qualification Authority. We also have the General Secretary. We invited the General Secretary, National Council of Charges of Kenya, the capture representatives, head teachers from our primary schools. Kindly stand up. Head teachers from our primary schools who are present. They are there. Let's appreciate them. We did invite head teachers from our public secondary schools and private secondary schools. If you're here, kindly stand up. Kesha officials. Let's appreciate them, please. Let's be a bit vibrant in appreciating them. Thank you very much, our head teachers. These are the people we entrusted our children with. They keep custody of our children. Sometimes you go to a school and you see a principal running a school of an enrollment of 3,000 adolescent children, teenage. You can imagine the challenge that person has. The Kenya Private Schools Association, the chair and the officials, they're there. I'm seeing the CEO there, Kenya Private Schools Association. Let's appreciate them. The Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academics, KU, our Vice Chancellors who are invited here together, please kindly stand up. Our Vice Chancellors from the University Subsector, they're there. Thank you very much. Officials of the State Department of University and Research, those who are here, kindly stand up also. I saw Mogaka, my brother in charge, the Director in charge of University Education, and the rest. Let's appreciate them. Development partners, UNICEF is supporting us in this activity. They're here. Our development partners, kindly stand up. Development for appreciation. Let's appreciate them. UNICEF is with us. The Vice Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor for Daystar University, we did invite you. I hope he's there. Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, the chairman, Al-Hajj Hassan Olenaido, are you there? Let's appreciate him. Thank you very much. Then we have of course, we have introduced the CEOs, then our brothers and sisters from the trade unions, KUPET. Kindly stand up wherever you are. We appreciate you. Let's appreciate KUPET. The Kenya National Union of Teachers, representatives, the SG and the team. They're there. Let's appreciate them. We do have representatives from the Hindu Council of Kenya. If you're there, kindly, we also recognize you. Elumietu, Joseph, I saw you this morning. The Secretary, Elumietu Coalition. Thank you very much, Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. Special Schools Health Association, University of Nairobi, School of Law. We have Professor Odote, he's a presenter here, he'll be with us. Kenya National Exam Council, they also have a team apart from the CEO. We did invite the Principal Secretary, Minister of Defense. We partner with them, especially the running of schools that are meant for the disciplined forces. We did invite the Vice Chancellor from Technical University of Kenya, Commission of University Education, the CEO. We did invite officers and officials from our sagas, KISE Principal, Kenya Teachers Colleges Principals Association, the TSC Chairman. We did invite Kenya Primary School Head Teachers Association, civil society, OSAWA, Kenya Institute of the Blind, and we did invite parents and teachers from Nairobi County. Kindly, the parents who are here, we want to appreciate you. If you can stand, please, from Nairobi region. We have a parents representative there, and we do recognize them. So with those introduction, I just want to say that this is a day's activity. We will be here for the whole day. We have made arrangements for even lunch. And so we want you please to settle down. Let's have a conversation about our competence-based curriculum. We are here because, as you are aware, this sector is still in the middle of reforms. We have been talking about competence-based curriculum, CBC. Every other person talks of CBC. And here we are talking of competence-based education. So somebody could be wondering, why is it that the CPC again has become CBE? All we are saying is we have not lost anything. Curriculum is an element of education. Education is the broader term. It is much more than the curriculum itself. So it is competence-based education. Elimu thabiti, firm, strong, education. It will lead to a firm, strong education. And you know very well that as a sector, we have always involved the key stakeholders, or sometimes people talk of the key stake owners, because your views matter to us. As a sector, we have nothing to hide. If you have any view to give, there are forums that we organize, not just at the national level, even at the school level. Every head teacher here organizes even parents' days, AGMs, every first term or second term. Third term, we usually leave it for the examinations. And so this is just part of the involvement, the conversation. As you are aware, our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Julius Migos, launched a national dialogue on the 7th of March, last month at the People's Park in Machakos, what we are calling national dialogue. Since then, we did visit all the 47 counties of this country, in the 8 regions of this country. And we met the stakeholders, gave them a status score of where we are in the implementation of the reforms. The stakeholders have also given us their view. So today, it's an opportunity to present to you what we have heard from the stakeholders on the ground. Each and every one of you has been given a folder containing, a flyer on a national conversation on competence-based education. We have made some briefs to give you an insight into what the sector is doing. In the flyer also is a program on today's presentation. You will be taken through a presentation on the report that we have generated. We generated a report on this. We'll officially release it immediately at the end of this conversation, and it can be carried in the press and the media. So there will be a presentation also. In the interest of the conversation, you are aware we did successfully transit our grade 9 students in January. We want to successfully transit our grade 9 students to grade 10 next year. And so the Department of Basic Education is going to present to you how that transition will take place. We are also in the program, which you can read for yourself, have other presentations from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, from the Kenya National Examination Council, from the TSC. We want to give you a status report on the implementation on the Presidential Working Party on Education report. We want you to give your views. We'll be doing more listening than talking from this side. And because where people meet, we need some order. I wanted us to agree on how we should transact our business today. And so I'll just read a few ground rules. And for us in the education sector, rules and regulations are very important. We're a sector of rules, otherwise we will not operate. And so I just want you to recall those days, maybe you're in school, when the principal reads rules and regulations, or you got a joining instruction with some rules and regulations. That does not mean we are suppressing views and so on, but where 1,000 people meet, there has to be some order. So please, I just want to say, as we meet here, let all phones be switched off or you put them in silent mode. We don't want to, when people are talking and so on, that we hear some noise in the hall. We are requesting kindly our participants to be brief and to the point whenever raising issues. So in case we put off the microphone, please don't feel offended. We're just saying you have had enough time. So that also is very nice. And we have a timer there. Even the presenters here will be timed. They'll be given 15 minutes each. They have to always be glued to that screen to check their time. Then the other thing is, please let's respect each other's opinion. Somebody might say something that you don't like, but that's his view. So we just respect that. Then we are requesting our stakeholders who are gathered here today to raise their issues with decorum, to respect and then use, to have respect for others and use courteous language. Very important to us in the education sector. For me as a teacher, my principle is I don't offend anybody. I don't want somebody to feel offended as a result of me. Even in class when a child is not doing well, we encourage them, we don't discourage. So please, the language we use is very important to us. And then I will request that we avoid repetition of issues already raised by others. No need of that. Then we have a secretariat, they are seated somewhere. Under the Director of Quality Assurance, they are taking notes. At the end of it, the program shows that our cabinet secretary or our principal secretary, if our CS will be available, will read the recommendation, the way forward will be read, and that will be when we are closing. So participants will be given the floor by the moderator upon raising their hands. Once you raise your hand, that's the only way we recognize, and then the moderator will give you the floor. And of course, we'll have presentations will be done. After every 2 presentations, there'll be a plenary. The presenters will sit here and respond to whatever issues that you will have. Participants are requested to be seated and minimize unnecessary movements. We request kindly, once you have come to the hall, we minimize unnecessary movements. So I think it is very clear, and all of us know why we are here. Is there anybody who doesn't know why he's here? We all know. Do we agree that? Asanteni sana. So with those remarks, I want to now hand over to my boss, our principal secretary, Professor Bitok, to take the rest of the program from there. Asanteni sana, Prof. Well, let's welcome the principal secretary.
Let's appreciate the Director General, ladies and gentlemen, tumpige makofi anapokaribisha our PS. Karibu sana.
Our chief guest, Honorable Julius Migos, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education, my colleague PS, Dr. Beatrice Nyangala, who is the PS for Higher Education and Research, Chair of the Education Committee of the National Assembly, Honorable Julius Meli, together with the honorable members who are present here. I've seen Honorable Joseph McLeod, senators present, county representatives, the entire leadership of the legislative houses who are vital in our reforms, national government officials present, including the Ministry of Education officials, Teacher Service Commission, Kenya National Examination Council, Kenya Institute of KICD, KEMI, among other agencies, Chair of Education Development Partners, Consultative Group, all our valued partners and education stakeholders, including teachers, parents, learners, the leadership of KESHA, KEPSHA, KUPET, NAT, and generally all our stakeholders who have been able to come here this morning. Good morning. How are you this morning? My name, as has been said, is Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok. I am the new PS for Basic Education, and I'm really honored and delighted to be here this morning to be part of this national conversation on competency-based education, Elimu Thabiti. Allow me to begin by extending my gratitude to all of you who have managed to come here this morning to be part of this momentous occasion where we are going to dialogue and be able to engage on the continuous reforms that we are doing on our curriculum and our education sector in general. As you may be aware, curriculums are very dynamic and they keep on changing. And from my background as a teacher, I am well aware that it is the collective engagement, it is that continuous engagement with stakeholders that is able to refine more the curriculum and be able to reflect the changing needs in our society. Your collective efforts, of course, have been instrumental in shaping the future of education in Kenya. And I want to extend my sincere gratitude. Even as I joined the ministry, I'm really very excited to be in this space so that we can be able to work together to ensure that we give the best or we give an excellent education system to our children. The conversation today represents a critical step of bridging the gap between the policymakers and the grassroots stakeholders who continue to interact with our children right at the grassroots. This initiative underscores our commitment to enhancing learning outcomes, ensuring smooth transition across levels of education, and addressing implementation challenges through inclusive dialogue and evidence-based policy making. Of course, education remains the core to Kenya's development agenda, as we are all aware, as outlined in Vision 2030, our bottom-up economic development agenda, and our national education strategic plans. So the government is steadfast and is committed to ensuring that the implementation of CBE is as effective as possible. So our goal today is to ensure that we engage, we get feedback. As you are aware, there are 47 county engagements. Today, we thought it is very important that we have a national conversation coming out of the 47 engagements that our team has been having on the ground. At this juncture, allow me to commend our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Julius Migos, for his visionary leadership in driving education reforms. Under his guidance and leadership, the ministry has prioritized meaningful stakeholder engagements, recognizing the success of our policies and opening up dialogues and collaborations so that we can be able to take education to the next level. We are confident that Kenya will achieve quality, accessible, and equitable education for all learners. The future of our children's education rests squarely in our collective shoulders. I urge all stakeholders to actively participate in these dialogues, provide honest feedback, and contribute to shaping education policies that serve the best interests of every learner. Let us embrace the CBE. Initially, we were talking about CBC, but now we have actually rebranded it to be CBE because we believe that curriculum was the entry point. That was CBC. But what we are implementing now is CBE because we are looking at the infrastructure, we are looking at the curriculum, we are looking at the human resource, that is teachers, we are looking at the school setup, and we are saying collectively this forms what we call competency-based education. And as I can report here, when we were in Nakuru last week, it was very clear there is a huge impact of CBE on the cycle of our education. We could see the kind of talent our students could display in Nakuru, right from primary to junior And that also has even moved to secondary and even to colleges and universities. There's a lot of creativity, innovation. There's a lot of skill that has been imparted into our children. And that is really our main focus. But I can tell you for sure that we can see a lot of difference even as we continue to roll out CB education system. Let me reiterate my personal and departmental's unwavering commitment to education excellence. On behalf of all who are present here, I once again appreciate our deepest appreciation for the contribution each and every one of you here today has been able to put forward so that we can be able to implement CB system of education. Otherwise, I don't want to take a lot of time. I want to allow me at this point in time to invite my colleague, PS Dr. Beatrice Inyangala, to greet you and make a few remarks before we can be able to continue with the program. Let's put our hands together as we invite Dr. Beatrice Inyangala, PS for Higher Education and Research. Karibu, PS.
Our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Julius Migos Ogamba, my colleague, PS Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, the Chair of the Education Committee, Honorable Julius Meli. I hope you're getting the flow of the Juliuses. We have 3 Julius now. And Honorable Joseph McClap, all the Ministry of Education SAGA CEOs and other CEOs present with us today, development partners, and all stakeholders. Allow me to stand on the already established protocols. Good morning. Good morning. I just have 2 messages for you. And the first one is that competency-based education is the best education that a nation can offer its children, its students. Because in competency-based education, we teach from the heart, from the head, and with hands. So basically, we produce holistically grounded students and eventually graduates who can thrive in an ever-changing economy and society at large. Students who are confident, who can communicate effectively with others, who can collaborate, think critically, and also create new things, the new knowledge, the technologies that this country requires as we strive to become a middle-income country with everybody enjoying a high quality of life. The second message is that at the university level, we are making preparations to receive the first cohort of this competency-based education in 2029. Our focus is on curriculum review to align with the pathways and also on pedagogical training, because it cannot be business as usual. For long, we were accused of just teaching superficially, and we get students out of the system who can only memorize facts, and obviously they forget. When you're taught something, when you're told, you tend to forget. But when you are taught how to do, you always remember. And this is the basis of the competency-based education, activating all the senses so that we address individual differences, that we help students develop, consolidate their capacities in the areas in which they are gifted. And so going forward, we really want to deepen the competencies of the students by meeting their learning needs. And the call to our teachers is to question their philosophies of teaching. Do they meet the learning needs of students? That's why we are focusing a lot of attention on training so that we can utilize the locally available materials, resources that we can access easily to maximize learning opportunities and outcomes. And as I complete, I want you all to stand so that we can do a little competency-based education training exercise. Can we all stand? Okay, rub your hands. Rub your hands, look at me and see what I'm doing. Okay, lift one hand up. Good people, lift one hand up. Show me three. Show me three. Everybody, can you see what I'm doing? Three. I can see some people are still shaking the 5. Okay, show me 3. Now, can you touch your cheek? Touch your cheek. Touch your cheek. Look at you. This is not a cheek. The cheek is here. Sit. Let's sit. So what is the message? Always show them what to do. That they will repeat. But if you talk, they will forget. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Beatrice Nyangala. Makofi kwake tena. I don't know whether we passed the exam or not, PS Beatrice. The CBE exam, did we pass the exam or we failed the exam? Most likely, most of the adults here may have not passed the exam, right? Because that is competency-based education. Now, Chief Guest, our Cabinet Secretary, allow me now to invite the Chairman of the National Assembly Committee, Honorable Julius Meli, to make his remarks. Karibu sana. Let's put our hands together as we invite the Chairman of Education Committee of the National Assembly. Karibu, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you. The chief guest of today, Honorable CS Julius Migos Gamba. The Principal Secretary is present, Basic Education and Higher Education, all invited guests. Good morning. First and foremost, let me say a lot of congratulations for this event, because it's an event that we've been expecting for a long time, Waziri, as Committee of Education. It is an event that brings together the minds of Kenyans into the thinking or what is competency-based education. And I want to laud you because curriculum is an aspect in education. And the fact that we are now talking about the national conversation and bringing everyone in and telling ourselves, conversing ourselves about the issues in education, this is the best way to go, because the owners of education, the people who are involved in it, are talking to each other and telling one another how to do it best. This is an aspect of all educations across the world, that the owners of it have to talk, have to reach out and say, how best can we do it? So we as a house, we've been in support of this process for all the time since when it started. This morning, I came along with honorable members of the House, the National Assembly. I think we are having a meeting, and I think I'm here with Honorable Joseph McClap, Member of Parliament, Baringo North. Other members, I think they have not come in. I have not seen the senators, but I want to say we are in total support of this national conversation. Let me just say a few things on this. That national conversation, or the conversation or the dialogues that we had across the country, was actually to bring the people to speed of what is happening in the curriculum of competency education. That the teaching learning process involves the home, it involves the teacher, it involves everyone who is out there. What does it entail when you talk of CBC or competency-based education? It entails the development of talent, the development of skills, the development of values, the development of a society that even norms are actually promoted and developed in the education sector. It is an holistic education system. Waziri, one time as a Committee of Education, we visited Singapore. and also you must have visited a number of nations in Southeast Asia. There is a very high value system in their education. Even as you meet them, as all the people, when they are moving on the ladder or moving on the stairs, those who are going up, they always keep on one side of it. Those who are coming down always keep on one side of it. There is a very high value system in how they dispose their garbage, either that if it is personal or communal, and even how they take care and talk to one another. The language they have, how they converse with one another. How do you meet and talk to a colleague, child, or a teacher, or your senior? Those are what we are actually talking about here today, about competency-based education. Because education encompasses every aspect of life in a society, and it's very dynamic. It's not only about the writings, the books that we write, the literature that we write, the mathematics that we answer. It is about the holistic development. How do we develop the personality of the child? How do we develop the ability to know what is right and wrong, and how to have interpersonal relationship, and how to even relate on the issues of corruption? All these are integral in the development of the child. So we as a nation, we are actually on the right trajectory. And I want to say that as a Committee of National Assembly, we will even move ahead and support you to develop better regulations, to develop better rules, to make sure that the education that you offer down there, all the way to university, are going to bring up a wholly developed individual, both in terms of affection, in terms of psychomotor, and in terms of knowledge, so that he becomes a whole human being. If he goes to the workplace, he has value-based skills. He has the ethics. He has the skills to do it. You've seen what China is doing today and other parts of the world in terms of producing very good quality machines for the whole world. China now is a workshop of the world because everyone loves or has a passion for his job. That is the kind of education we need to have in this country. And I want to say, as members of the House, we are in support so that we develop even students and Kenyans who will not be looking for other countries to get jobs, but we will be creating jobs ourselves so that others will come here and will be able to export what we have made with our hands. With those many remarks, I want to say, let us give very positive, critical information on how to make competency education more valuable to us, to yourself, to your school, to your institution, and to our society. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for those powerful words. Makofi kwake tena. We have really received a lot of support from the National Assembly Committee on Education in all these reforms, and even the budgetary allocation. We have seen you doing a lot of work to support the Ministry of Education in all these things. Now, before I invite the CS, allow me to make a request. We have enough capes for everybody. We have actually for everybody in the room. I want to request so that the CS can be able to address a gathering which is properly uniformed. Can I request that we all have our capes on? Because it's very beautiful. Where are these capes? Where are these capes? Where are these capes? We want everybody to have their cape so that when we invite the CS, at least the room will be really colored in white. Competency-based education. Elimu thabiti. So I want the capes to come in. Where are these capes? Let's have the capes. Everybody will get. Let's be seated, please. Let's not move. You'll be brought. They'll be brought in. Everybody who has a cape, let's put them on. They'll be brought in so that you don't have to walk out to be able to receive them. And as we put on our capes and as we wait for like 1 or 2 minutes for the capes to come in, allow me also to say that CBE is the best curriculum this country has ever had. Remember, we started with the British system of education, which was 763. And you know, it had its own challenges. It had so many bottlenecks. People are not moving forward. And then we said because of problems, in 1984, we reformed and came to 844. 8 years in primary, 4 years in secondary, 4 years in the university. But the 844 had also some issues. It was two examination. Initially, it was designed to be a very practical curriculum, but it had issues. And the government again came with another working party to come up with CBE. CBE is about competence. It's about talent. It's about the skills. It's about innovation. And countries all over the world are now going the competency way because it gives every learner an opportunity to do what they know best. If you are good in a certain subject or a certain skill, you are given an opportunity to do it better and better and better. So our country, at this point in time, has the best ever curriculum in this CBE. So I urge all stakeholders to support CBE. We are here actually because we want to refine it even further because curriculums are dynamic around the world. And recently, I received a delegation from Rwanda coming to learn from Kenya how we have been able to implement CBE. And in as far as the model is concerned, we are looking at British curriculum at the beginning, British model, and then we came to American. This one now is an hybrid European model. It brings together Finland, Canada, and other countries together so that we get the best Kenyan model, a model for Kenyan learners. So we have the best curriculum ever. So at this point in time now, it's my privilege and honor to ask us to stand up so that we can be able to officially invite our guest of honor, Honorable Julius Migos, to address this national conversation on curriculum, or rather competency-based education. Let's put our hands together to welcome the CS. Karibu sana Waziri. Welcome.
Thank you, PS. Please be seated. I know that when my PS for hire gave us that exercise, I was holding my cheek with a very big smile until I realized that I was not holding the cheek. I think all of us need refresher courses in CBE. The principal secretaries present here, Professor Julius Bitok and Dr. Inyangala, the members of parliament led by my friend, Honorable Julius Meli, the chair of the Education Committee, and Joseph McLap, member of parliament, Baringo North, the CEOs here present of all our sagas, Council of Governors here present and members of county governments present, senior Ministry of Education officials, KEPSHA and KESHA leadership, the teachers, union leaders, partners, stakeholders, distinguished guests, esteemed education stakeholders, fellow Kenyans, parents, teachers, our precious learners, if there are any here today, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning again. I am happy to welcome all of you today to this important national conversation on the competency-based education that we have rolled out this far. This vital conversation, ladies and gentlemen, comes just a month after we concluded the county-based dialogues on quality education in all of our 47 counties. Today's conversation, therefore, offers us an opportunity to receive the recommendations of the county-based dialogues and further engage on the education we want. I had an opportunity to attend some of the county-based dialogues myself, and I can proudly tell you that the events offered us some of the most valuable feedback on the implementation of the competency-based education, as will be presented here shortly. As a ministry, I am pleased that through these dialogues, we were able to appraise our valued stakeholders, and especially the learners and parents, on the progress made in the implementation of the CBE. I want all of you to be aware that such conversations are not in vain. As a government, we take you seriously and will always ensure that your views and given in such engagements count for something. For instance, ladies and gentlemen, the majority of our stakeholders during the competency-based county dialogues were of the view that mathematics as a subject should be compulsory in senior school. So this conversation, and by the end of today, once the presentation is made, will show that we have listened to your concerns, and we have consulted with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and reached a resolution, which I hope that you will support, that some form of mathematics be made compulsory for the two pathways that are not the STEM pathway, so that we have the STEM pathway having pure maths and the other two pathways having a form of math, so that we have maths in all the three pathways in senior school. So we love that conversation. And I think it is an important aspect that we have listened to the views of the Kenyans, and it is an important input that has come from the stakeholders, so that we can show that we are not just holding these meetings for the sake of holding meetings. We are holding them so that we can hear from you. We can listen to you, because we do not have all the answers. Your input is important, and the more we get from you, the more enriching our curriculum and our education is going to be. I want to therefore take this opportunity to assure you that your views were received and will be considered at various levels of policy making. Ladies and gentlemen, competency-based education is a journey that we must get right, because it impacts on the future of our nation, our national aspirations, and most importantly, the current and future generations. The value we attach to the education of our children speaks to the value we attach to the future of our nation. We must therefore give in the attention it deserves and ensure that we are speaking the same language as a nation. Our decision to organize this national conversation offers us a further opportunity to get feedback on the education that is fit for our children. As a ministry, we are here not just to speak, but to listen, to understand, and to collaboratively shape our trajectory of our competency-based education. The mode of engagement, I assure you, will continue until we complete the full competency-based education cycle at grade 12. And as the PS for Higher Education has indicated, the universities are already working on the curriculum reviews to receive the students in the various pathways that are under the competency-based education. Ladies and gentlemen, over and above this, we have been diligently implementing the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform, which considered views from all stakeholders across the country. I therefore humbly beseech you to engage with open hearts and minds today. Let us share our experiences, ask questions, and offer our support. Let us work together as a nation to build a bright future for our children. The officers from the Ministry of Education, from NEC, from KICD, and TSC are here to listen, to understand, and support you. We are all in this together. We shall, as stakeholders and the education sector, support our children as one. Let us remember that behind every education policy, behind every curriculum, and behind every education statistic, there is a child, a special human being. And it is for them that we are here today. It is for their future that we are working, and it is for their dreams that we are striving, and we must not lose sight of that. Ladies and gentlemen, with those many remarks, it is my pleasure and humble duty to declare this national conversation officially opened. Thank you, and God bless you. Asanteni sana.
Okay, let's be seated kindly. Another round of applause for the CS. Thank you very much, CS, for those kind words. Now the program proceeds. It's now my honor to invite now Professor Collins Odode to step forward. And the Head of Quality Assurance, Madam Evelyn, you can also step forward. You are the chair of this session. And Dr. Elias Abdi, again, Karibu, you can step forward. And then we can have the first presentation coming to the stage. Karibu, welcome. Let's be seated in front here, Evelyn. Let's be seated in front here. Karibuni sana. Karibuni sana. Karibuni sana, Prof. Okay, there's a request for Cabinet Secretary together with a group photo for the CS and the chairman of the National Assembly Committee before we listen to the first presentation. Waziri, karibu for a picture. Where do we take the picture? Where's Dixon? Where do we take the picture? Where does the CS take the picture together with the members of the committee? Or the request is that, or can we do the first presentation is 15 minutes. So, and I know the CS has a parliamentary session at 10. We have about 15 minutes to 10. So, Chairman, you are, so we do the picture first with the CS. Where do you do the picture? Okay, the first picture. Waziri, I'm advised that the picture will be done here. Yeah? You have to, okay, it's all right, Waziri.
So good morning. Riding on the already established protocols, allow me to call upon the first presenter, who is Professor Collins Odote, who is an Associate Dean, Faculty at the Law University of Nairobi. He was a member of the Presidential Working Party. He chairs the Ministerial Reforms Advisory Committee, the Legal Subcommittee Affairs to implement the Presidential Working Party, and is also the chairman of the Council of Legal Education. So Professor Dote will be taking us through the status of implementation of recommendation of the of the competency-based education contained in the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. Welcome, Professor Dote.
Thank you, Evelyn. CS, PS Basic, PS Higher, who is also my sister, colleagues, please allow me to write on the protocol already established very well by the PS Basic. I will do this in 10 minutes because the DG said two things that are important for my presentation. Actually, three. Number one, he made the point that please do not repeat what has been said. And number two, that if you talk for too long, you'll be stopped, even if you're the presenter. I have no intention of being stopped, so I will do this very quickly. I do this on behalf of my 42 colleagues that we had the privilege 2 years ago to be appointed as members of the Presidential Working Party in Education reforms. Some of them I have seen in this hall, went across the entire country and developed a report with several recommendations. And you see they've gone to the next one. And the photo on the first slide would show you what those recommendations were contained in. The second issue that's important, just go to the next slide, is thereafter the process of implementation of those reforms have been going on, and the Cabinet Secretary has underscored the fact that they are implementing the recommendations, and the DG in his opening remarks says that implementation of reforms in the education sector is an ongoing issue. So we are in the process. My duty is, one, to just highlight what the key recommendations were, two, to point out what implementation measures are in place, and number three, to share some reflections. So if you could go to the next slide, please. I'll skip to the next. While there are many recommendations in the Presidential Working Party, for purpose of this presentation, I'll speak around 9 key themes. The first one, which was a huge conversation. I remember Professor Charles Ongondo coming to speak to us at the start of the Presidential Working Party and urging us that, you know, the problems about CBC is nothing about its technical content. It's largely around perception and issues around implementation. By that time, there was huge disquiet as to whether the system should be retained or not, and as to whether adjustments should be made. After a lot of conversations, one of the decisions that the Presidential Working Party made was that let us retain CBC, but make several adjustments to it. And I think today, PS was even talking about that we have moved from CBC to CBE as part of that continuous adjustments. Under that, we said several things. I think for me, three most important ones was, number one, that as we do so, there was a whole debate about what is the system of education. I remember my colleague, one of the lawyers, even went to court to say, you know, the laws does not even capture what the structure of the system and structure is. We then had a debate and said, let the system be 2633 and added a third 3. Because by then, the basic curriculum education framework was talk about 2633. And the third 3 was so that universities can be able to adjust their education to a minimum of 3 years as part of the reform process. The second conversation that was important then was we were just about to have learners go to grade 6. And the question was, where will they be domiciled? A huge conversation. Should they be secondary school? Should they be junior school? Why? Why not? The Working Party recommended domicile them in primary school. The third, which is important, was the concern that the learning areas were too many. There was overlaps, there was overloads, young children were learning too much, and the Working Party then recommended, please rationalize learning areas. So that's on the first theme. On the second theme, and David Njegere will be speaking a lot more about this than myself, we then made recommendations on restructuring assessments. PS, I heard you say that, did people fail the exam? At least in CBE, there are no exams to be failed. We are only assessments. So, and you don't fail. You approach expectation or you're below expectation. So we then made several recommendations. I think the most important one for me are 2, and I'll leave the rest for David. The first one was that the KPSEA exams that were then only 2 weeks away by the time we make the recommendation, will only be used for monitoring learners' progress and not for placement. And we're all used to the fact that you do KCP, it then determines where you go. I think that change has then since been implemented for several years. The second that was important for me was in terms of how we then take into account KEPSEA and the formative and summative assessment for purposes of final grading. Just 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who was extremely unhappy as a parent and saying, why are we allowing teachers to be able to mark and we are using that for assessment, David? I listened to him for a long while. And after that, I said, but you and I have just gone to university. And in university, cuts are an important part of assessment. Why do we think that at the lower level, we should not allow formative exams to then be used for purpose of assessment? That was the second recommendation that was made. If you could go to the next slide. On the next slide, the third theme was on the question of quality assurance. The theme of this meeting, if I saw the heading, is about improving the quality of education. And there's a lot of concerns from citizens about how do we ensure that quality assurance is enhanced? How do we deal with the overlaps between TSC and the Ministry on quality assurance? And we made several recommendations on quality assurance, including strengthening the Directorate of Quality Assurance, including ensuring that the ministry has primary responsibility for quality assurance and TSC responsibility for teacher management. The fourth issue, and it's the DG was telling me this yesterday as we're having the conversation, that at the center of learning is teachers. So how the quality of teachers, how you treat teachers, how you deal with their welfare, how you empower them is central to competence-based education. And the Working Party made several recommendations on teacher educational management. I think the highlight for me was to deal with entry requirements into our TTCs. And I think those who are here now know that we were at a stage then when our TTCs had no learners or very few learners. Now they have because of those recommendations. If you could go to the next slide. PS Basic was thanking the chair of the Parliamentary Committee of the National Assembly for the support they continue to give, including financing. And issues of financing are critical. The government continues to invest heavily in the education sector, but money is never enough. The amounts required is less than the amount given. Even when you add every year, it continues being less. Those from the education sector, from CAPTCHA and CAPTCHA will say the fees that people are paying are less than what we require. Parents then say we can't even afford what we are paying now because of the state of the economy. So the Working Party made several recommendations, including ensuring that we enhance the capitation, including how do we then deal with collaboration with the NCGDF, including questions about how do we address the issue about minimum essential package, and also how do we deal with the issue about financing of university education. The next issue was the question about equity and inclusion. I have seen my colleague from NACONEC, the DG spoke about KISE. How do we then deal with questions about special needs education? How do we deal with questions about marginalized learners? And how do we deal with adult and continuing education? Next slide, please. We then also, so that we don't think that it was only about basic education, there were also recommendations on the TVET sector and recommendations on the university education, including enhancing linkages with industry for both places, including funding for both levels, including addressing the Trainers Service Council, establishing it as a key entity, including governance reforms at both levels, and also dealing with the question of linkages from TVET to university and vice versa. I think it's yesterday that I saw the CS making the point that TVET is the way to the future, because when people are applying to COOPs, there are sometimes concerns. Why are children only applying to TVET and not to university? And I think the CS answered that yesterday, because TVET is a critical future of this country, and I think the Working Party also spoke about it. Next, there are also cross-cutting issues. The most favorite for myself and David is community service learning, and we made proposals on community service learning, something I hope we can then be able to accelerate its implementation. And then lastly, we then made huge recommendations on legal and governance reforms, and you've just had the Parliamentary Committee saying we are happy to support, including on regulations and on legislation. Next slide. In terms of implementation, colleagues, if you look at this document that you have, all of us do, the ministry has done an excellent job in terms of summarizing the status of implementation, what has been implemented, what has not been. And I will just go to the next slide. I would like to make just 2 or 3 points. Number one, there's a lot of administrative reforms that have been undertaken by the different state departments. State Department for Basic, led by Ambassador Bitok, State Department for Higher, led by PS Beatrice, State Department for TVET, led by PS Moria. Secondly, policy reforms, including the development of a draft sessional paper, and thirdly, legislative reforms. On that slide, we list for you the key bills that have either been proposed to be amended, new ones that have been developed, and these bills are at a very advanced stage of being taken both to cabinet and then to parliament for purposes of enactment so that we can be able to anchor the reforms. Next slide. There have also been conversations between both TSC and the ministry, Council of Governors and the ministry in terms of dealing with how best to address the constitutional positions of both levels of government, the constitutional position of TSC, while implementing the recommendations of the Working Party. The rest of those recommendations that you see on that slide have already been spoken about and are covered in the document that you have. So is the ones on the next slide, if you go to the next slide. So I will skip that and speak about a few reflections. If you could just go to that next slide, please. In terms of a few reflections, I think for me, when we started this process 2 years ago as members of the Presidential Working Party, we hoped that in around 6 months, all the recommendations may even have been implemented. While we gave 3 years, we were saying, but this can be done fairly quickly. I think reality shows that the context of reforms changes every day, and that affects the pace and space for reforms. I think it's the Bible that says, man proposes and God disposes. I think in Kenya, they should say, human beings propose, politics disposes. So the political context affects what you can implement and what you cannot implement. I think the second, and thank you, DG, for always making this point, the education sector is very delicate. So there are times you might want to do some things quickly, but you must ask yourself, what is the interest of the learner? That then says you just wait a little more so that the assessments are done, so that there is no disquiet. So, and I think that's something we always must keep in mind and be alive to as we push for the reforms. The third, and that's why this conversation is critical, stakeholder engagement and dialogue is essential for pushing anything. If you are making sausages, if you are building a house, you just require brick and mortar. But if you're dealing with things that affect human beings, you must discuss again, disagree, agree before you can push anything else. So I think this continued conversation is critical because maybe today people have an idea. Tomorrow they have changed that idea. What is worse, they might even say, we didn't say it in the first place. And if you don't carry them along, you will go nowhere. So I think those conversations are critical as part of the reform process. I think the fourth, and thank you, Prof. Ongondo, for making this to me when we were at the Working Party. I think it's important that we distill teething issues in implementation from fundamental gaps in the reform process. There are certain things that are teething that we need to address as far as we go to, and those things should not be confused with fundamental problems. The fundamental problems need to be addressed, but we don't need to make the teething things fundamental issues. I think lastly for me, then I'll go to conclusion. No, second lastly, litigation shapes reforms. CS and myself are lawyers, but even for lawyers, you are amazed at the amount of litigation that go on in this country. I think we have become as litigious as the US. So therefore, in every issue, if you aren't careful, and even if you are, you must contemplate that there will be litigation as part of the process. And that has to be something you keep in mind as you deal with things. And I think lastly is the importance of continuing the political will, because without political will, you cannot go far. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, if we could then go on, I think I asked myself as a member of the Presidential Working Party, where do we sit 2 years down the road? I think 2 years down the road, there are a lot of fundamental changes that have happened in the sector. Implementation continues, but CS, there are also areas where we could do with a little acceleration. I think as I made the point to you several weeks ago, the reform window closes every day. I think in a short while, we'll enter into the political season. So I think pushing and accelerating the reforms is critical for us to be able to sustain the benefits of CBE and to be able to continue to anchor the future of our education on very sound footing. But I think we are in a very good place, and this conversation is part of that process. Thank you very much, and wishing you all a very good day.
Thank you very much, Professor Odote, for that very precise presentation. We shall have the next session, but kindly put down your questions, because after that we shall have the plenary where you'll be able to give your comments or give your response. Now, the next presenter is Dr. Elias.
Sound Candy Talk Live News.